Here is cute little fellow is the reindeer of Dr. Kureha, whatever we call her. But this is Tony Chopper. He's a very nice little guy and just so very adorable. You want to have a stuffed animal and squeeze him. One Piece, Chapter 134, Dr. Kureha.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and exciting tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw Luffy and Sanji taking Nami. Luffy's got Nami on his back, and them going to seek out the witch doctor, Kureha or Kureha.
Kureha, you idiot.
And they have to climb this mountain. And there's supposed to be some sort of flesh-eating rabbits called Lapins that are on their way, or Lapins. Some of these things I don't really know how to pronounce, but I aim to eventually get better at them. So when anybody ever has anything to correct me on, just let me know. And I will, as soon as obviously I record the next review. So that's where the chapter ended. That's where this one picks up. And really what winds up picking up is, they had told us a bit about, we found out that Wapol was actually we find out that he was actually the king, right? And what wound up happening is, Dalton is explaining this to Vivi and to Usopp, explains that he wound up taking off when they, that winds up, they're talking amongst themselves and trying to figure this all out. And basically, Vivi's like, hey, because she thought she recognized him before, but she's trying not to give away that she's Princess Vivi of Alabasta. And she recognized him before because when she was younger, she was at some kind of meeting of kings or what have you, and he was Wapol was king of this area, the Drum Kingdom. So I guess when Blackbeard and his pirates came, they didn't even bother trying to fight him or anything. Just him and his people, his henchmen, his guards, whatever, just took off and went out to sea. And he's just pretending, or I don't know, I guess, whatever. He's playing pirate, basically, until they can find their way back. So I don't know how long they've been gone, if it's, weeks, months, years. But that's kind of the whole deal with them. Dalton gets a little bit suspicious when he goes and he hears Vivi talk about how, she says, oh yeah, and I was in this meeting, and he's meeting of kings, who are you, because he kind of said, I thought you looked familiar. And she says, oh no, nothing. The point is that we met him, and we chased him off or what have you. So, so Vivi is like, it's terrible that a king would just leave his people, that's obviously not their job. And Dalton says, yes, it is, but, we're in the process of trying to rebuild everything now, and that's one of the things that we're trying to build something united and peaceful, and that's one of the biggest things that we're, nervous about is making sure that there is a proper monarchy in place for this. So we find all that out, that little bit of background information. I know I kind of spit it out in odd ways, but that sometimes is just my way as I'm trying to collect my thoughts and pull them together. We then get the kind of the middle of the story is it going and showing Luffy with of course Nami on his back, strapped to his back, and Sanji, and they're walking through the snow, and Sanji's like, I cannot believe that you don't even wear shoes, man. You're just making me cold, And Luffy, you can kind of see where some of his not so brightness comes in, because he goes, well, that's my police. And he goes, you mean my policy? And he says, yeah, whatever. That's what I mean. It's my policy not to just to wear open-toe shoes, even if it's cold. Doesn't matter, So as they're walking through, Luffy goes and he starts telling Sanji about how he hears that people in cold climates, or like winter islands like this or what have you, that they don't sleep. Because if they sleep, they'll freeze, right? And and Sanji goes, you are an idiot, What do you have? We were just in Dalton's house, and what about him? He had a bed in there, right? And Luffy goes, oh yeah, must have been his deathbed. And I can just see this conversation happening between these two, and Sanji's just like, so then Sanji goes and he tells him some tall tale, just I think screw with him, and says about how, oh yeah, well you know why people that live in this climate, why their skin is so silky and smooth, right? And Luffy's like, no, why? And he goes, well because when you're cold, you're always rubbing your arms and your hands together like this, and that makes your skin soft and smooth. Luffy goes, oh, really? Well, I wonder about the white color, why it's so white. Well, I mean, obviously, when you live in the cold, there's absence of the heat and the sun and whatnot that warms and changes the tone and pigment of your skin, but which we all know. But Luffy doesn't know that. So Sanji's, of course, messing with him a little bit, and he goes and he says, oh, well, it's because of the snow, because of their, it changes the pigment, of their skin or whatever. And then Luffy's like, you are stupid. And it's so funny because I think Luffy is like, he can believe this one wild tale that he heard in a tavern somewhere, that he heard from somebody at one point. And even Sanji asks him at one point, he's like, did Usopp tell you that? It sounds like one of his stories. But it's just kind of funny because you see the dim-wittedness of Luffy, you know. There's that honest, kind heart in a lot of senses, but he ultimately can be very, very, you know, naive and stupid with things. You know, he's going to believe this, you know, people in the winter climates don't sleep because they'll die, but yet he doesn't believe that, you know, that the snow, being around the snow constantly and rubbing that into your skin or rubbing your skin with it would change the pigment of it. So it's like he believes one tall tale but not the other. So it's a fairly comical exchange. They wind up, as this whole exchange is happening, there is a rabbit trying to eat at them. A couple of them, it actually looks like. So you're assuming it's these, you know, Lapins or Lapins, whatever they're called. And Sanji's dodging them and kicking them and moving, you know, this and that. And then finally they wind up they're having this whole conversation. As they finish the conversation, they come upon, and it looks like a bunch of these giant rabbits, right? And they're like, what are those? And Luffy goes, well, they're white and they're big. They must be polar bears, you know. So, but I think these were the Lapins that they were talking about, these flesh-eating rabbits. So it winds up then going and showing us a brief Wapol of Tin and his crew, and shows them out to sea. And Wapol, of course, has been rescued, it looks like, by his crewmen. And he says, hey, you know, do you see any trace of their ship? And he says, no, but we finally found home. So they finally were able to sail back to and find home. Obviously, when they sailed off, you know, getting away from Blackbeard and his pirates, they didn't have any type of log pose or eternal pose with them, so they've pretty much just been aimlessly, I guess, out to sea. You know, there's no bearing, no way of finding their way back. So they can see that in the horizon. So we know that that's going to eventually be a problem. It then goes and it shows Dalton and them, and there's a villager that comes over and says, oh yeah, we heard you're looking for a doctor. And Dalton says, yeah, they just went up the mountain. She goes, yeah, I know, but the doctor's here. She's in the town next door, you know. So then they go and they talk a little bit too amongst themselves about the Lapins, the giant flesh-eating rabbits that are as big as polar bears and hunting packs and everything else. So you know that's what Luffy and Sanji ran into. So now they're halfway up the mountain, and the witch doctor's right next door in the town over. Then they go in the last few pages. They show the doctor, Dr. Kureha, and they show her there's a child that you know, he hurt his arm. He's crying about something, it looks like, and he's in a store, and the shopkeeper's going, come on, give me a break, keep it down. The dad's like yelling at him, and all of a sudden the doctor goes and bursts in, right? And you know, because she knows there's a sick child or somebody that's crying, that must mean that's a bad father. She's a total shyster, total bullshitter, and introduces her as Kureha, master physician, 139 years old, you know, because... And then somebody makes mention too, wow, she's like 140. She's like, I'm only 139. So it's one of those goofy type of deals with, you know, women and ages. And, you know, but she's just so up there, who cares, right, at this point. And then we're also introduced to her reindeer, which is Tony Chopper. So, which I put a picture of that I had drawn. He's a cute little fella at the beginning of this, you know, beginning of this video. So hope you enjoy that. But so she comes in and she's like a shyster or whatever you want to call those, like a snake oil salesman, you know. She comes in and she's like lands him down, and then she goes and she's like, what hurts? He's like, oh, my arm. So she nails his leg, and he's like, oh, my leg. And she's like, oh, your arm and your leg, I barely touched you. You don't have a fever, but you must have an infection, you know. It's you have a bone infection, you know. I need the antibiotics. Get them for me, Chopper. And they're like, what? Antibiotics? She's like, I just make a small incision. And the dad's like, it all happens so quick. She basically goes and cures the kid, right? And injects him with whatever antibiotic supposedly cures the kid. And then all of a sudden, and then she goes and she's like, okay, and she tells him, you know, she says, listen, and as payment, I'm low on toilet paper, I need rum, and I'll take 50% of all your assets, you know, because remember, she cures people, but then she just sort of makes up her own price of what she wants. So he's like, what are you talking about, 50? I can't give you 50% of my assets, half of everything in my, you know, or everything that I own. And so a few other villagers come by and they're like, hey, you know, and they're basically calling her out. They're like, you know, she just pretends like that kid wasn't even hurt. He was just crying because his arm hurt or something like that, or, you know, just because he fell down or what have you. And they call her out, and I'm assuming that it's because she drugged him with something, because then all of a sudden the kid goes and kind of sits up and is like, Grandma, I feel better. So I'm assuming that she hit him with some Lala juice, you know, something to knock the kid out and kind of put him in and make him a little delirious. Because then that seems to, you know, kind of cure the shopkeeper's, his hesitancy. You know what I mean? It fixes everything. And because he was kind of probably thinking, I am a crazy bitch, I ain't paying her. So then he goes and he says, okay, great, you know, I'll pay. And then she says, oh, it only cost you 49%. And he goes, oh, okay, whatever, I'll pay. So that's ultimately how the chapter winds up ending. This Dr. Kureha is like I said, is clearly like this snake oil salesman, if you will. She just seems like this person that is is of course just untrustworthy and out to rob you blind. So I don't know exactly what her deal is. And my chapter question is, and this one really is just, this is more of a question just for subscribers, period, because I like to know things and interact with people. If you could comment and let me know where you're from. I mean, if it's from the United States, you're welcome to put what state you're from. If it's from outside of the United States, you're welcome to put, city and state or province and state, whatever you feel comfortable with. But just comment down below, brothers and sisters, because I just kind of want to get an idea of, of there's many of you that do comment, and I certainly look at statistics and things like that, and you can see that there's stuff from all over the world, many different countries. But just curious to see as to where we have, where we have some of the brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you should think that I deserve it, and then subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
As always, thanks for watching, brothers and sisters, and remember, join the Nerd Nation. It's the right thing to do. Trust me. Tell them Jim sent you.